Why do I read and why should you? This is a question that I have not necessarily thought about, but I have asked myself many times why I'm not reading, why do I like to read, but I was tagged in a video of somebody else who I follow, The Lit Wizard on YouTube, and he tagged me and said, hey, I want to know, why you and these other creators read, because it was a fun exercise for me to do. So here is me throwing my proverbial hat into the ring. Welcome to Right Through It. I'm Eric, and I want to talk to you about reading today. So there's going to be questions I respond to in the Lit Wizards video. I might tangent because I tend to do that, but it's an interesting time for me to do this because I have had a huge hot streak of reading and then a big slump of not connecting with books. And that's always been the plan, is to find the stuff I love and I'm inspired by and expose myself to stuff that maybe, I wrote off originally and turns out I didn't really like it. And that's okay too, because we are subjective. I mean, that's why there's so many artists, but it's going to be interesting how I factor that reality into these questions, which I'm not prepared. So I'm going to be reacting to them live as I go through them. So we'll see what happens. The first question I'd ask is, what is your personal philosophy of reading? This is kind of a two-tiered answer for me, because I have the nonfiction route and I have the fiction route, and even within the fiction route I have a nonfiction route of my philosophy on reading. Broadly speaking, as a coach, my philosophy of coaching is reading. It is the hero's journey. It isn't necessarily Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, but it's rooted in, I want to help people be the hero of their life story. That's what I was trying to do. And through all the archetypes, through Carl Jung, and even books that I've read like Grendel or The Celestine Prophecy or The Alchemist, have been fictional books that made me see psychological principles and human nature in a different way. So it doesn't matter if it's fiction or nonfiction. My reading philosophy is really rooted in discovering universal truths. I extend this to art and to music. I believe movies fall into this as well. If you read something, if you watch something, and we're focused more on reading here, when you expose yourself to literature, it sneaks past your defenses. And I think that's really important, because we are very defensive people. But when we're reading fiction or even nonfiction, we are curious. So our curiosity is what leads us to new adventures. And that's why we read. My philosophy on reading is I'm curious about things. And I'm just thinking now, I don't know what else is going to be asked. So I'm going to try to be really concise, because I might answer question 3 in question 1. And I really should have looked at them beforehand and planned it out a little bit, but hey, that's not the way I do things. Anyway, so my philosophy, back to that, I feel that when we read, we can get new information. It's maybe information we knew from somewhere else, but it's in a different form. And sometimes we just have to hear it from a different author. We have to read it in a different story. And even if the message is the same, it connected with us here and not here. So I want to read more so that I can be exposed to more ideas. Whether I take them or not, I was at least exposed to them and open to them. But I think reading is one way we connect with mythology. Before education and science and things like that, we use stories to make sense of a very chaotic world. And so I like thinking of it from that perspective, that mythology, fiction can hold deep truths, or good fiction can. And I feel like if even I didn't like the book, that is true. That's why it is a famous work or a beloved work, is because there was deep truths put in it, but it might be served in a way I didn't like. And that's why I think it's important to read broad, is that you can't just give up on reading because you didn't like one book. You might not like that author. You might not like that genre. Although I disagree. I think every genre has a book that you would like and I would like, but maybe there's a lot fewer in literary fiction compared to fantasy for you. But that's all fun. Find the horror, find all the different genres, find where you are inspired, and then go there. And don't feel bad about it. Don't try and feel like you have to be loving this author because this person you respect loves it. And if you don't love it, that they'll look at you negatively. This is about your experience. My philosophy is about you learning truths and opening your mind to things that maybe you were closed off to, or maybe you're defensive and walled up about. And this art is going to sneak past those defenses and hit you in the heart where you need to. And that does lead to transformation. That is one of the reasons why I take story and use it for my coaching. And one other thing is, this also says my philosophy, how does reading affect my non-reading life? And I think I've sort of hit on that, but I do use it as philosophy. It also impacts my writing life. So when I read, I am learning through kind of an education of watching others do it. And now when I go write, I feel like it makes me a better writer because I'm understanding the flow of and pacing of other writers, and I can bring that into my own writing. But like I said before, my coaching philosophy was the daily heroics. How can I be the hero of my story every day? And there's other masks that I can wear that aren't the hero. So when I read other stories, I filter in my own philosophies and measure them against these stories. The Ship of Magic was by Robin Hobb was a great example of looking at the character Kyle and being like, I could teach a whole class on mental health and wellness on that archetype of Kyle to help someone raise awareness in themselves to see if they're being the villain, the hero, the bystander, the martyr of their own story, or the victim. So I see the world differently because I'm reading and because I'm staying connected with my own philosophy of how I feel health and wellness journeys go for people, or at least the way it's impacted me through the arts, through story. So the more I read, the more I'm connected to that philosophy that has impacted me so much. So in a way, it helps me keep growing. The next question is, when did I think of myself as a reader? After about 2014, 2015, I got into reading, but I had hot and cold streaks. Read a couple fiction books, got into that. Then I got into a ton of nonfiction, psychology, self-development books. Then I took a break from that and got back into fiction. And so I ride this roller coaster of what I'm reading and take huge gaps of time off of reading. This is when I was going back into trying to create businesses and things of that nature. So I didn't have time for reading. I even took time off and got really into cinema and trying to watch all the greatest movies of all time as I was trying to make movies. And so I've taken breaks, but I'm always exposed to creativity. But as a reader, 2014, I started to read. I did read like Goosebumps when I was a kid. That was the only thing that made me a reader as a child. Otherwise, I couldn't stand a single page of literature except for R.L. Stine books. Then I read one in middle school called Murder on the Iditarod Trail. I did enjoy that, but that was it. Then I took a long gap because I didn't like it. I didn't like being made to read the books that I didn't want to read, so I just made this rule that all books are bad. I don't want to read. I'm not a reader. But once I got to choose what I was reading, then I found myself becoming a reader and understanding why people read. But I'm also a writer, and that makes things hard because I'm trying to find that balance. So that's even slowed me down recently. I hit a string of books that I didn't connect with. And when you go through 3 or 4 of them in a row, it really dips the spirit and the motivation to read and the desire to read. And then when your writing is taking off and you're just typing, creating story, and it's wonderful, you want to ride that. And so I didn't read as much, but I'm still considering myself a reader, even though I've kind of been in a funk recently. But I'm still going, and I'll be releasing my next TBR for September pretty soon. The next prompt is, what are my hopes and goals for my reading life? Again, this is complicated because I have a goal of publishing my novel. That means a lot of work invested in that, and I only have so much time in the day. So my goals for my reading life, I would love to finish reading 3 books a month. That would be amazing. I am going to say a minimum of 1 that I really enjoy. That would be beautiful, to find more books that I enjoy, to read more books that I enjoy, and start to better understand why I gravitate towards certain genres or writing styles. But greater than that, I want to better figure out the balance of how I split my time between writing and reading. Because my novel, whether it gets published or not, I'm going to keep writing. So that's going to be part of my life for the foreseeable future. I don't want it to end, but I'm not naive thinking that I'm just going to write every day of my life for the rest of my life and I'm going to love it. There's going to be breaks. But my goal overarching is really, how am I going to balance my writing and my reading and make sure that both of them, even though they're tough at times, are still this, on the whole, good thing for me. They are enhancing my life because I don't want to lose that. And the final prompt is, what is exciting in my reading life? And for that, I would say it's community. It's the first time in my life I've had community around reading. So this channel, being more focused on my reading life and my writing life, has opened me up to people. And I've found some great people that are giving me recommendations, and we're having dialogues and discussions about it, and we're supporting each other. Even this video is in a way doing that. But whether it's through these videos, whether it's on Discord, my own server or someone else's, my writing group or a reading group, I have community. And that's moving my reading and writing life forward so wonderfully. And that's exciting because I'm not doing it alone. That's one of the reasons we do this. That's one of the reasons people post, or at least will I post onto YouTube, is to not be alone in things that I'm passionate about. I want to bring others. I want to join others, and I want to share and stay connected, because when we stay connected to things like reading that can be difficult at times, we find the momentum to carry forward. Even if we're taking gaps of time off, we're still connected to a community, so we're going to come back. And having not had that, that is what is most exciting to me about my current reading life. So that is all the questions. My thanks to the Lit Wizard for challenging me, and if you stick around, one of my next videos is going to be him picking my September TBR. So more to come on that front, and as well as the buddy book read that he's putting out based on one of the books that he recommended for me. So stick around and you'll hear more about that as the next month flows on. But that's going to do it for this video. So thanks for stopping by. I hope to see you in the next one. And until then, journey well, my friends.